Do you remember the 1971 B horror film Twins of Evil? If so, you'll likely remember the lead roles played by sister Mary and Madeleine, known as the Collinson Twins. They came from the Crown Colony of Malta and became two of the biggest stars in the B-movie craze of the 60s and 70s. They were also the first twins to appear on the centerfold of Playboy Magazine. But shortly after they became huge stars, they disappeared from the limelight. These were Playboy's first twin playmates, then suddenly the Collinson Twins disappeared. Let's find out what happened. From Malta to the UK. Mary and Madeleine Collinson were born on July 22, 1952 in Sliema, in what was then the Crown Colony of Malta, part of the British Empire. They spent their early lives growing up in Malta. They first traveled to the mainland of the UK in 1969. They were spotted by Harrison Marks, a notable photographer and filmmaker. He had begun his career as a stage performer, but soon became one of England's most famous glamour photographers and filmmakers. He hired the twins to appear in his short film Halfway In. This film was shot around the time the twins arrived in England and was completed in the summer of 1970. One of the stills from this short was used in a magazine called Continental Film Review. This still showed the twins together, and this is what sparked the fascination with the Collinson Twins. In 1969, they also appeared in an exploitation film called Some Like It Sexy. The following year, they had another small role in the hit youth film I Am a Groupie. This was followed by another small role in the X-rated film Permissive. Both twins played groupies in this film, and it was clear their profiles were getting noticed throughout the UK. Before we tell you more about the Collinson Twins, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First for more. Playboy Magazine. Aside from their film career, the Collinson Twins are best known as being the first twins to appear in the Playboy Magazine centerfold. They appeared in the October 1970 edition. Seeing identical twins in the centerfold of the popular magazine caused quite a stir that year, but this controversy helped the twins reach a wider audience across the Western world. Their jet black hair, dark eyes, and voluptuous figures are what led this issue of Playboy to sell rather quickly. It was their ravishing beauty that caused the Collinson Twins to remain popular. They also had a few other magazine appearances, appearing in Cinema X magazine in 1972 and Tidbits in 1973. It was clear their beauty was in demand. It was also this beauty which led them to be cast in their first lead roles in a feature film. Twins of Evil. The 1960s and 70s were the golden age of horror films in the UK. During these decades, Britain also saw a surge in B-movies, exploitation films, and X-rated films. The twins both appeared in the drama The Love Machine. In 1971, the film Twins of Evil was released. This film was directed by John Hough and was written by Tudor Gates. The characters and story were slightly inspired by the novella Carmilla and Sheridan Le Fanu. The film was the third in the Karnstein trilogy of vampire films produced by Hammer Films. It revolves around twin sisters, Mary and Frida. Madeleine Collinson, in particular, was a huge fan of horror films. As such, this was a dream role for her. Frida was the evil twin sister, while Mary was the twin sister who represented virtue and goodness. The film was a success and remains a cult favorite among horror fans to this day. This was also the film that made the Collinson Twins into major celebrities. The two later acted together in the sex comedy film Passion Potion, which would mark the end of their film career. It was also after this film the twins stepped away from the limelight. What happened to the Collinson Twins? The Collinson Twins appeared together on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson in 1970. This appearance made them famous on the other side of the Atlantic. As expected, they began receiving film offers to appear in Hollywood productions. They got offers from both Warner Brothers and Columbia Pictures, but it seemed their Hollywood career wasn't meant to be. Mary wasn't keen on becoming a Hollywood star and longed to return to Europe. Madeleine followed her sister, and the two of them emigrated to Italy, living in Milan for several years. Both sisters were no longer interested in being in the limelight and decided to pursue careers outside of show business. Mary started a modeling agency in Milan. She also met an Italian man and started a family with him, giving birth to 2 daughters. Madeleine eventually moved back to Malta. She worked for the British Council while there. She also spent a few years living in Bournemouth in the UK. She eventually married a British Royal Air Force officer and had 3 children with him. Madeleine Collinson died in Mesita, Malta on August 14, 2014. She was 62, and her sister Mary was by her side. Mary Collinson died in November 2021 at age 69. With neither sister with us, a resurgence of interest in their careers has arisen. While their modeling and acting careers were extremely short-lived, they still managed to make an impact in showbiz. While we might be used to seeing twins on Playboy centerfolds and in B-movies today, this was rather unusual for the 60s and 70s. The Collinson Twins were trailblazers and have a unique role in film history. The Collinson Twins' legacy. The October 1970 cover of Playboy shows the Collinson twins wearing short black dresses emblazoned with the famous Playboy bunny logo. They have matching short hairstyles that were in vogue during that time. The photograph is on a lavender background, which perfectly contrasts with the dark dresses the twins are wearing. It's not hard to imagine many men walked past newsstands and then doubled back when they saw the twins smiling back at them. The photo shoot consisted of many shots of the twins together. One of them showed the twins lying on top of each other, nude from the waist up. This might be commonplace for Playboy and other X-rated magazines today, but it was rather risque for the time. It's quite telling these beautiful twins came from the Crown Colony of Malta. Malta was a conservative country with a strict Christian culture. Nevertheless, this didn't stop the twins from showcasing their beauty when they arrived in the UK. They arrived at the end of the 60s. The UK and much of the West was undergoing a cultural shift. This was a transition away from the conservative culture that defined much of the 50s. Part of this cultural shift was, of course, the sexual revolution. Photographers such as Harrison Marks capitalized on this and helped bring the twins to stardom when they appeared in his short films and photo shoots. The twins seemed eager to model for magazines and advertisements. They were even more excited to appear in the popular exploitation films, which were popular during the 60s and 70s. While their career was short-lived, their contribution to the counterculture of the 60s and 70s can't be overlooked. The cover of the October 1970 edition of Playboy Magazine remains one of the most popular covers in the magazine's history. The film Twins of Evil is the perfect introduction to the unique genre of films made back then. This B-grade horror film mixed with elements of a sexually charged exploitation film perfectly encapsulated the cultural upheaval of these two decades. If you're a fan of exploitation films from this era, you've got to watch Twins of Evil. This film showed the boldness of filmmakers of that era. They weren't afraid to rebel and shock audiences. The Collinson twins left behind a legacy that helped shape the counterculture of the 60s and 70s. They could have become even bigger stars, but were happy to retire to quieter lives back in Europe. While the twins are no longer with us, Twins of Evil remains a cult classic. You might even find an old copy of the October 1970 Playboy on a dusty bookshelf somewhere. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Twins of Evil is rightfully considered one of the best classic horror films? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.